Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is April 13th, 2020, and if you've been stimulated, well, congratulations. Some people are actually starting to get their stimulus checks. There's nothing open to spend it on. All right, so a quick update to the sort of the ongoing situation, because I want to try to keep you guys as up to date as I can with shipping. I know for some people who watch this channel, they would never buy anything from overseas in the first place, but that's beside the point. Hong Kong Post, which is the mail service of the Special Administrative Region of Hong Kong, had earlier this month taken the ability to get things sent to the United States down to what is known as Speed Post, which is their version of EMS. The express mail service that Japan uses. Several other countries use it too, but it's just EMS is the general term. Technically, Priority Express is EMS for the United States. So that was available. It was very expensive. You could stuff a box. We talked about it before. Well, in the intervening time since we made a video the last, that EMS service has also stopped now, and the only way to get something shipped from Hong Kong to the United States via the postal service of Hong Kong is by surface. So that's going on the literal slow boat from China. The estimation I've seen going to Canada is 15 days. I would assume the west coast of the United States is something similar. Then it would be treated as obviously a ground parcel. The Hobby Cat is not very happy about this situation, as you can hear, but it would be treated as a ground parcel from California. So now it's going to go the whole way across country by truck, and that's going to probably take another, 3 to 7 days, depending on how far away from the port of Los Angeles or the port of Long Beach that you happen to be at the time. So that's something to keep into mind. I believe you're going to see a lot of people slowly losing their mind online about international shipping right now. And again, it's not so much a function of COVID itself, as in, oh my God, I can't buy this stuff from Hong Kong because it'll have COVID wrapped all over it. It's a function of the fact that most places have locked down either in or out, depending. Like in the United States, we aren't letting anybody in. China's, unlocking their own citizens, but blocking everybody else from coming in. A lot of their resurgence of cases have been from Chinese nationals coming back home. A big chunk just came out of Russia, where, of course, Russia didn't have any problems with this, and all of a sudden, of course, they're on fire over there right now. Irony. And so, that all being said, there's a significant decrease in the amount of flights that are going in and out of places. And with that, there's basically no capacity for the mail anymore, because what most people don't seem to realize, from just looking at people, again, already starting to lose their mind over international shipping, is the fact that international shipping is done in the cargo holds of passenger airplanes, not on air cargo airplanes. Air cargo is a completely different thing that needs a big open plane with basically no seats in it. So, without those passenger planes flying, Cathay Pacific has grounded almost their entire fleet. They're basically flying like 5 flights a week right now out of Hong Kong. We saw where flights in and out of Japan have been significantly reduced. They're only operating one runway at Narita International in Tokyo, which is the first time it's only had one operating runway since 1968. So, with all those things going on, keep in mind, international shipping is a complete and total shit show. I'm not even going to pardon my French on that. It's just the way it is. And delays are expected at this point. It's not a situation of if my parcel will be delayed from somewhere overseas. It is when my parcel will be delayed overseas. We've seen several international vendors suspend operations entirely. Hero Boy, which of course is also Zero Paints, Media Mix out of Singapore, and other places like that. Hobby Easy, which is the main Hong Kong retailer I always tell you guys to use, is still open because, of course, they're selling within China, within Hong Kong. One of the options of shipping is always to pick it up locally at the model shop that they operate out of, which would be cool, but I can't get there because there are no flights going into Hong Kong. I'd be willing to spend 2 weeks in a hobby shop in quarantine. But be that as it may, just keep that in mind. Some places are going to sort of slowly reopen as Europe gets their handle on things. Some of the mail services are starting to come back up over there, but just because Correos in Spain, or the Italian Postal Service, or Royal Mail starts to come back out of their slumber over the coming months, not like tomorrow. That's a big problem we have here in the United States. Everybody thinks we can just flip a switch and we've hit the peak. It's all good and it's going to go down like a free fall ride at a state fair. Not happening. Um, is the fact that those countries, they may be shipping within the Eurozone because they can put that stuff on trucks. But getting it here to the United States is still a problem because there are, again, very few international flights going between anywhere in the United States right now because, of course, all the various travel restrictions in and out of various countries. So just, like I said, off the top of the head. So let's talk about something way more cheerful than that. Some normality that hit the hobby this week because we got from Hasegawa the June and July releases from them that would have been what they were going to exhibit at the Shizuoka Hobby Show had it happened at the end of next month. Of course, that was canceled back in early March, but it was nice to see a little bit of, oh, hey, there's still a future going on where it's not like looking at this sheet and wondering if any of this stuff is really going to show up. We have a few other things to talk about kit release or kit news wise in Japan. We're going to cover those first because the Hasegawa stuff's sort of the bigger stuff. So, one thing that was added to the release list, and I'm going to put the big asterisk caveat that goes on with everything that Ebro says they're going to release in the sense of, yeah, okay, but when? They say may, I say nay. They're put on the 1/12 scale Matra MS11 F1 car for the 1965 British Grand Prix. This is the collaboration between Ebro and Tamiya, where Ebro is basically adding what looks like a photo etch fret and some decals to the old 1/12 Matra kit that Tamiya did back in probably the 70s. And that seems to be like it. Looks like the Matra MS11 was supposed to be built with like front winglets, and the only way to build it as a British Grand Prix car was like a pre-test version. There's never been a way to build it as the race version straight out of the box. So what Ebro has done is sort of fix that problem for you. It seems like something that should be easily done. It looks like, from everything I'm reading, that Tamiya is the one who's producing the model kit, and Ebro's just, like I said, just tossing some extra bits and pieces, or my personal favorite British saying, odds and sods, into the box. So with Tamiya producing it, perhaps it will come out on time rather than having it be Ebro's thing to deal with, because there are still some 120 scale F1 cars that Ebro announced 3 years ago that still haven't come out yet. So, tentatively speaking, May, we'll see where that actually ends up coming out at. And then the other thing we got was the July releases from Aoshima as well. This is more Snorefest, unfortunately, guys, but it is what it is. Reissue of the 72 Nissan Laurel 2000 GX, the reissue of the 1973 Nissan Skyline GTR, a reissue of the 2012 Toyota Hiace Boxy Style, and a reissue of the 1995 Toyota Hilux Custom. It's another one of these slammed lowrider pickups, this time with like the 1995-ish looking front ends on it. Now, a couple of things that they are doing that are, worth mentioning, I guess, is that they are going to be doing a boxing of the 2015 Toyota Crown Royal Saloon. And this, much like the Toyota Crown Athlete kit that's being released this month, which is a combination of the 2013 and the 2015 front end wheels and things like that off the Crown Royal Athlete. This is the same thing for the Crown Royal Saloon. So this will give you, much like the 2003, 2005 reboxing, the ability to buy sort of two kits in one box depending on which version or which variant you want to build. You have to pick one or the other. There's not going to be two bodies or anything else like that. But this will be a combo box of the two different Crown Royal Saloons from, like I said, 13 and 15. They're both the same generation of cars. The differences between them are very minimal, and they are front bumper, front valance, wheels, and I think there might be a slight rear bumper difference between the two. But that's sort of it. But it is nice to have both those things in one box, so you can build whichever one you want and not have to buy two kits to build. You still have to buy two if you want to build them both, but you're not sort of limited to this or that. You have your little bit of a choice in the matter. They're going to reissue their 2010 Toyota Hiace as a fire inspection vehicle. This is basically the kit that they just released not too long ago as the traffic police vehicle that had the big like aero board added to it and had those side windows with the side window put into it, which didn't exist in the previous high ace kits. So it's like that. They've taken the pieces and parts for that minus the big aero board and turned it into sort of a public relations. They call it fire inspections. Here over here will be a fire marshal. And it's got a couple of different, 2 or 3 different little pieces added to it, like lights, external lights for the fire department, flashers and whizzers and whatnot, and then a new set of decals. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same kit as it's always been, but it's another little teeny variation they could do to turn out another kit. And then the one thing that comes sort of a long ago, far from the past reissue is a reissue of the 1991 Nissan SEMA Y32 generation Type 3 Limited. The Y32 SEMA, other than the Impol version that was put out when they started recirculating the new the model car, the 2 model car, it was car number 31 out of those, so it was somewhere about probably 3 years ago when that kit came out. They have not reissued the factory stock version of the Nissan SEMA in like 17, 20 years, something along those lines. It's gotten one release since the early 1990s, but it has not been reissued in since the maybe early aughts in the 2000s. It's been a long time. So that's kind of cool to have that come back. Of course, one of those things that I picked up, secondhand because I figured it would never get reissued. So I don't need one, but hey, for everybody else who's been wanting one of those, second gen or modern second gen SEMAs, that's going to be coming back out for you. So let's go over to the Hasegawa list. So let's take a look at what we will be getting in terms of releases that would have been offered at Shizuoka. So first up, a couple of straight reissues. These are just sort of things we're tossed in because this is also their release schedule for June and July. Don't expect any Hasegawa kit announcements for the next 2 months, basically. Toyota Celica GT4RC, that is the street version of their ST185 Toyota Celica rally car. A reissue of the Lamborghini Miura P400 Superveloce with Resin Girl, because we, again, can never have too many Resin Girls. Also, in that vein, they're going to be reissuing their Mazda Cosmos in a very interesting boxing for the Evangeline 2.0 anime series, and this will be the Nerve vehicle. Apparently that stands for something. And this will have a resin version of Asuka Shikinawa as a figure. This is apparently mind-blowing to a few friends of mine who are in anime that they would do something like this. I'm assuming that this is something that was in the series as far as the car. You wouldn't just box something into something else for the S and Gs of it. But yeah, so that's coming out. So there's a new Resin Girl figure. I thought we were done with the Resin Girls. Hasegawa can always prove me wrong that no, the Resin Girls will live forever. Also, reissue of their 944 Turbo Racing kit with a shell livery that's very reminiscent of the one that won the, I think it's the 1987 24 Hours of Le Mans, maybe 1988 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's a red and yellow livery, sort of a throwback livery to that. I'm assuming it ran in the 944 single spec racing series at some point somewhere, but it is very much, again, a callback to that livery. They're going to reissue their Nissan R92CP, which of course is their newer Tool Group C car that came out at the end of last year. It has been done as a 91 CP, as a 92 CP. JSPC has been done here recently, not too terribly long ago, as the 24 Hours of Daytona GTP winner. This is going to add a new front cowl piece to it, which will allow you to replicate the other Calsonic car that ran in JSPC in 1991 and 1992. And this will give you not only a race-winning car, but also the championship car for the series. It always struck me as odd when they did this kit that they didn't do the one that was actually the car that everyone would recognize. If you have any inkling at all about Japanese sports car prototype series, finally, apparently you need to do a little bit of tooling. Well, I mean, all that tooling was done, but you need to have a couple of different parts added to it to make that number one Calsonic car, and so that is coming back out. That is something, the race car fans are very much appreciative of. It looked like something you might have to, go into a resin trans kit to get, but no, fear not. Hasegawa's got you. Then you're going to get a reissue of the Nissan Bluebird as the SSSR. Remember when we talked about the Bluebird many months ago and what might come of it over time? And one of my things was, of course, it'll have to be the SSR because that was the most rally spec version of a car you could buy at the factory. It literally had a roll cage installed at the factory. Well, huzzah, here it is. This says early, so I assume that there will be a late version of this as well. The early version is the one you probably see a lot of online, where it's a very colorful red, white, and blue livery all over the car. I don't know necessarily that all of them came from a factory that way. I think they were just standardly white without any graphics on it, but this was one that, you know, Nissan obviously had as their display vehicle. So that is coming back out. There's a whole slew of new parts to that: bumpers, hoods, tail light, rear bumpers, interior pieces, wheels, tires, skid plates for the underside, a whole bunch of new parts, probably about 20, 30 new pieces in that. You're going to get a reissue of the Nissan Skyline R31 GTSX twin cam 24 valve early. So this is, they did a twin cam late, or no, excuse me, this is a twin cam late. They did a twin cam early, the 1986. That was the most recent R31 street car that they had done, which had like new wheels and new steering wheel and some other things in it like that. This is basically going to be a set of decals because there isn't any actual difference between early and late, other than the fact that they would have different engines in real life. But of course, the kit's curbside, so that's sort of irrelevant. So it is a very minor Reeboks. If you're very, very much into your Skylines, you have to have, but otherwise it's not anything to write home about. Also going to reissue their Toyota Starlet EP71 Turbo S as an early kit. So this is going to get a new front bumper, or a new front bumper, a new grille, and this is a new handle. And usually when handle is mistranslated by Google Translate, that means a new steering wheel, because that's what you handle. So there's like 3 new pieces in that to sort of backdate it a little bit to the early part of the production. And then a couple other kits that are going to get reissued, or one other kit's going to get reissued, is their Lola T9050, a Formula 3000 car. That, of course, is a 1/24 scale F3 car. And that is going to get a 1991 All Japan Formula 3000 Leighton House livery. So that's a new set of decals that has never been in the T9050 line before. And I know a lot of people like Leighton House just in general because it has that cool sort of aqua color. There's Leighton House decals for a whole slew of different things. So if you have a Leighton House collection, this is something you may possibly need for it. And then something else that was sort of put on the June release list is the Mitsubishi Lancer EX 1800 SR Turbo. That's that new tool Lancer kit from like 1983, sort of the street version of the B-Max Rally kit that has been announced for like a year. It's 13 months late at this point. And it looks like it's been pushed to June, which would make it 15 months late. I'm guessing some places still have it listed as April. Some places have it listed as June. Somebody's going to be right in the end. I'm pushing it to June because I trust the vendor who moved it to June. So keep in mind, it may come out this month, or it may not come out till summer. So there's that. And then over to July, a few other things from Hasegawa. We'll probably see some kits added to this, possibly in May for the July, because there's only like 5 things here. It's not as long as our normal release list would be, but these are, again, the Shizuka-specific things that they would have announced. Reissue of their Mazda Cosmo streetcar with Resin Girl, because Resin, all of the things with women inside. Reissue of their 2005 Subaru Impreza WRC in its Rally Mexico winning livery. That's a kit that hasn't seen the light of day in quite a little while. They're going to reissue the 1995 Mitsubishi Evo 3 with a new Tour de Course rally livery in it. That's something that's never been in that series before. The 2 different cars you can build out of it are the 3rd place finisher and the 8th place finisher. And then you're going to get a reissue of their Porsche 962C as a 1986 World Sports Car Prototype Series Brunn Motorsports car. So that's a new set of decals that have never been in the kit before, added to obviously a venerable kit at this point. And then lastly, they have the announcement of a 1987, I believe, since there's a range of years here, and you know Hasegawa is going to reissue this kit 5 or 6 times before it's all said and done with, but this is a brand new tool, AE92 Toyota Corolla 11 GT Apex. If that sounds vaguely familiar to you because you're watching this channel for a while and I've beaten the living daylights out of you with race car stuff, that is basically the street car version of the B-Max Japanese Touring Car Championship AE92 Corolla race car. I don't know if it's Hasegawa's intention now to make street cars out of every race car the B-Max has done. it's not a bad plan, because usually when BMAX announces a race car, everyone goes, well, why don't you make the street car? Because when BMAX makes race cars, shut up. Um, so yeah, that's going to be a brand new tool, curbside, but it's looks very nice from the 3D renderings. They all look very nice in the 3D renderings. Hasegawa has really been doing some very excellent work in the last 5 years. They've sort of become the manufacturer in Japan. Not only are you getting reissues of things that have been out of production for years, sometimes decades, but they are constantly hitting you with new tools. I mean, granted, the Lancer's been delayed, but I mean, this is going to be one new tool followed by another new tool. Hey, let me make a prediction for All Japan Model and Hobby Show in October. There will be another version of the Bluebird, there will be another version of the Lancer, and there will be another version of the GT Apex. There you go. I've just told you what's coming this fall. Most obvious prediction ever. I went out on a limb the size of a willow tree on that one. So anyway, that wraps up that. There's a bunch of different parts to it as far as options go. You can add some ground effects and a spoiler, and there's to be two different sets of wheels for the GT Apex and just sort of a regular AE92 Corolla. So very cool, and I don't know if there's really a point for them to turn that into a JTCC car, but I think that's an earlier version than the one that technically the BMAX car is. I think the BMAX car is technically an 89 and has a slightly different front end on it. So, hey, I'm not going to sit here and argue about it. Make me all the race cars you can. So we did have a few kit releases this week as well. A little bit of normality on that front as well. Now, we did get some domestic things out, and they are the round two kits that we're expecting for the month of April. So they're Johnny on the spot this month. First up, you have the AMT Vintage Police Car. So this, of course, is the 1927 Ford Model A. It's just a reissue. There's nothing actually new about this in terms of content. New decals, but I mean, there's not really too much in the way of decals on this. This, of course, has the front and neck flathead performance accessories for the engine, so that's something to keep in mind if you're looking for those. It's not really a situation where you could build it two different ways. I mean, technically speaking, I think there's a little less of a factory stock version in there with the speed parts. It includes side curtains, which normally aren't in the kit otherwise because they're specific to the police car. But yeah, that's back out for people interested in it. And then the other one is the MPC kit, which is the Taco Tray, number 2 of 6. So now you're numbering it, so you know for sure all 6 of these are going to come out over probably the course of 2020. I got nothing at all to say about this other than, holy mother of God, what were we taking in the 1970s? Because apparently I can't even with that. So yeah, this is Zeke's Tex-Mex. It looks like a small block Chevy stuck in there. It doesn't appear to have a radiator, although it has a water pump, but there's nothing driving the water pump. So I'm not sure how this technically operates as a real vehicle. Of course, that's probably not really the point. They did give you the clear parts in 3 different colors and all that sort of thing. So I think the mailbox trike is the next one that's set to come out in a couple of months. But right now, that one is out for all of you fans of your Trick Trike series. So there is that. So going overseas, we have a couple of things out of Hasegawa and then one thing out of Nunu. First up, a set of wheels out of Fujimi. This is the set that was supposed to come out back in February, got delayed. It's out now. Your 17-inch Oz racing wheels. So yes, these are clearly racing wheels. They got a big center lug on them instead of a 5, normal lug nuts. I think these are technically the wheels that are in the R32 Group A car, if I'm not mistaken, or something along those lines. It may have been in several Fujimi race cars, actually, but I think these are specifically the wheels out of that, so those are back out for anybody who's interested in it. Over at Hasegawa, we got several reissues of varying interest. First up, you have this, which is the Toyota 2000 GT with 60s Resin Girl. Oh, yes, once more we touch upon the Resin Girls. This is the best episode of this show in months. She is perplexed as to why she's again standing on the wrong side of the vehicle, because this is not an export version with a left-hand drive dashboard. Just your standard 2000 GT. It's a really nice kit just in general. Of a really, really cool historic Toyota race. Well, it was raced actually, but this is a street car version. I have not the Resin Girl version, but I have one of these, and I keep meaning to build it because it's just a very, very cool car. I don't think no matter what your sort of feelings about import cars are, I think this is one of those sort of Halo-ish Japanese vehicles where you have to like it regardless, just because it was a very cool, it was high-tech piece of engineering at the time back in the 1960s. So that's back out. And then also at Hasegawa, we got a couple of rally reissues. First up, we have this, which is the Evo 4 '99 Rally of Canberra winner. This is a Asian Pacific Rally Championship Series car. Now, what's sort of interesting about this, and it's going to be a juxtaposition on the next kit I'm going to show you, is this kit clearly has five spoke racing wheels on it. I think they're speed lines. And inside the box is a set of Oz racing wheels, which are the flat-faced ones. I'm trying to think of something that has those in it that a lot of people would recognize off the top of my head, and I can't think of anything right there. But they kind of look like the Oz, they kind of look like lug-nutted versions of regular Oz racing wheels. They were like in the Alfa Romeo DTM kits and some of the other racing kits from the 1990s. Clearly from the picture, that's not the wheels that are on the car. That may be the wheels that have always been in this kit, because there are Oz Racing Wheel Rally Art decals for the center of the wheels, which would be there if the wheels were on the car in real life for some reason. But again, that's not really what's on there. It's something completely different. So, it is what it is in that sense. It does give me the opportunity to perhaps wheel swap out a Galant rally car, because Galants, I believe, have the same wheel size and the same wheels in them. So I have a set of decals I'm looking at for the Galants that need the Oz racing wheels, and that may be a happy coincidence. Also released this week is the 1979 San Remo Rally winning Lancia Stratos HF. So unlike the other vehicle, which we just talked about, which had like parts that don't really go to it, this one actually has more parts to it than were advertised. This does have the skinnier wheels and the sand dirt tires, or wheels, and the sand dirt tires as well, skinnier tires. So that's there. They're not necessarily shown on the parts list when you look at it, but they're in there. I've seen contents of the box. They're in there. And then one of the things that the kit sort of literature said about this was that it didn't have all of the front night racing lights, but it does have those sort of secondary pods that are down there by where the turn signals would normally be. And those aren't in any other Lancia Stratos kit that I've come across. So this has to be something, this configuration has to be something that was offered at some point in time. They didn't tool any new parts to it. But yeah, all right, cool. So yeah, this one actually looks exactly like the box, which is kind of again, a departure from Hasegawa. A lot of these sort of reissues are like, parts may not match the actual photos. This one actually really does. This has sort of the same problem that a lot of Lancia Stratos kits do in terms of the livery, where they have a great big Lancia logo over top of the front of those engine cooling louvers, and yeah, have fun cutting that apart. So there's that. And then lastly, from Nunu, we have a new kit, which is technically a reissue, but it does have some new parts in it. It's technically new kit, and that is the Lancia Delta S4 for the 1986 San Remo Rally. So yeah, this came out actually on time, more or less. I think it was technically supposed to be a March release. I'll take early April. Actually, it was out in March in Hong Kong, so technically it made release date, just didn't get distributed by Japan on time. But hey, considering the world is on fire, I will accept that delay. So this has newly tooled night racing lights. Those are those additional lights beside the grille there. Otherwise, this kit is a straight, more or less, reissue of the previous Delta S4 that B-Max did. Same company, remember, same company. And then with the toe tip Jolly livery included. It's a very nice livery, because nothing against some of the decal manufacturers out there. Some people have made this livery, but they made it in such a way as they only included parts of it and then give you masks to actually paint the rest of it. This is not that complicated a livery in terms of the decals fitting over weird shapes, and it's great to see. This is an entire decal sheet. All you do is paint the car white. The decals will do everything else. One thing, if you look at buildups of this online, as far as the ones that Nunu put out and the ones that are on a lot of vendors, they showed the standard Delta wheels without the aero discs that are on the box art, but rest assured, the aero discs are in the box. So I don't know why they didn't build the kit with the aero discs on the built up. Maybe they weren't available. Maybe those are new too, and they just didn't mention it. Nunu is touting this as a new tool, which of course is not really a whole new tool. They're the ones making it now. So yeah, this is again another cool thing where you look at the build-ups and you're like, wait a minute, where are the wheel things? The wheel things are on the car in real life. You can't not include those. Where would I get them from? I mean, I'm sure there's places that have aero Venturi wheel things that would fit these wheels, but I don't have to because they're in there, so that's great. And then also with that comes the detail upset. This is probably, again, one of the more recommended detail upsets that I'm going to tell you guys about for this S4, because it makes an oil cooler, an oil tank, and one other piece I can't think of off the top of my head exactly what it is, that are not in the kit in plastic pieces, that help your engine bay and your front sort of stowage compartment, because the spare tire in this actually rides up front underneath what would normally be our hood here, because obviously the engine is in the back of the S4. And then, of course, this also comes with those 2 or 3 sheets of carbon fiber, which really help accentuate the detail on the kit, rather than painting the bottom of the chassis desert yellow and having it be one monolithic color. This will give you those yellow carbon fiber looks to your chassis, which are again, I think, a very worthy accessory in terms of making that look come out. So anyway, guys, there is this episode. Again, just a little bit of normality, some kits coming in, some kit announcements. The future still exists. The world isn't going to end. Everybody stay safe, and we'll see you guys on the other side.